I love Sonic the Hedgehog. The walls and shelves of my new house are covered head to toe in toys, comic books, and posters. Sonic 3 and Knuckles is my favorite game ever made. A few years ago, Sonic Mania reminded me just how magical the series can be when treated with genuine love and care from the right people. Unfortunately, I did not like Sonic the Hedgehog, the 2020 live-action film. I thought it was an uninspired, bland take on a series known for its stylized, surreal imagery and lovable, cartoony characters. Setting the film in a mundane town on real-life planet Earth was possibly the worst decision in this entire production, as it removes the core appeal of Sonic's character and his world. I never asked for a film like this, so I didn't see it in theaters. You can recap my full thoughts in my Sonic 2021 critique video, but in short, I hoped that future sequels could abandon the live-action setting, introduce more game-inspired elements, and ditch the obnoxious Marvel-style quippy dialogue from Sonic the Reddit Hog. While the pre-release marketing of the sequel was still not quite to my tastes, it was shaping up to be a far better film than its predecessor, so I didn't feel like I was being a blind Sonic shill by seeing it in theaters this time. At least not as much compared to what I would have felt had I supported the first film. Alongside this video review, I'll be releasing the post-movie discussion that my brother started recording once we left the cinema. If you want almost 3 hours of unscripted discussion about Sonic the Hedgehog 2, filled with curse words by the way, I'd recommend listening to it after you finish this video. First, a gentle reminder before we start. My opinion is not an attack against yours. I am not personally taking anything away from you by saying I didn't like the movie where a blue furry alien sits in a car. Just because I love Sonic doesn't mean I'm going to blindly love everything that he's in. If you have such a problem with critical analysis of art, then I don't know why you're watching reviews, unless all you want is a regurgitation of your own opinion. The Sonic fan mindset before this movie even came out was to celebrate whenever critics said the movie was good, and then get mad about critics as a whole if a single one of them said the movie was anything less than perfect. If you're older than the age of 15 pulling this shit, you should be ashamed of yourself, and I sincerely hope you learn to stop acting like such a fucking baby. Alright, let's get started. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is a boring, underwhelming, frustrating experience that never made me laugh or even smile, not counting the times I laughed at how terrible the movie was. Every element of the film's structure, pace, cinematography, and musical score just falls completely flat. By the time it ended, I felt like I hadn't even experienced anything of substance, as if nothing within the film's status quo had meaningfully changed from its last installment. Sonic Movie 2, because that's what we have to call it, is surprisingly devoid of exciting action set pieces, and is instead filled with lifeless conversational scenes between uninteresting human characters, or obnoxious scenes for babies where characters dance and say funny words. A somewhat common phrase that I've seen already on social media is that while it may be a better Sonic film than the first one, it's a worse movie overall, which I struggle to disagree with. Also, no, these aren't the greatest film posters ever made, they're just more orange and teal floating heads that every big studio film does. Some do have a few more vibrant colors, or maybe show off a slightly more interesting composition, but I'm not sharing the Sonic fan opinion that I want these up on my wall. This review is not coming purely from the mindset of an entitled fan who's mad that they changed things about my favorite game. I don't have a problem with deviating from the source material, if the alterations are good and for the better. But my primary issue with this film, and its predecessor, is that it feels so hollow. Sure, there are a sequence of events that occur in the movie, but in terms of strong emotional narrative beats or engaging set pieces, this film is a whole lot of nothing. Even the climax in the third act is uninspired and uninteresting. This movie wishes it had a single moment that compared to the cinematic flair of the CG intro to 2008's Sonic Unleashed. No, that game's not underrated, shut up. If Sonic wasn't already an icon in popular culture, with an existing cast of characters and familiar iconography to incorporate, I don't think anyone would care about these films. and no one would be excited for post-credit scenes teasing characters that have no existing context within the film's universe to new audience members. Since there's no home release yet, this review, or mini critique, isn't going to feature the usual in-depth analysis backed up with specific clips of what I'm talking about for every scene, but I'll try to do what I can. There are spoilers ahead, don't watch anymore if you don't want to hear them, although there's barely anything to spoil in this movie to begin with. Let's start with the characters. Sonic the Hedgehog is likable enough when he isn't acting like an 8-year-old or spouting stupid Marvel references.
Oh great, the Winter Soldier. Yeah!
Because, that's what Sonic has always been about, right? Haven't you ever played a Sonic game before? Wow, this is really just like Marvel. Tails is probably the best character in the film, thanks to a great performance from Colleen O'Shaughnessy, even if he does get sidelined during the dreadful second act. Knuckles is mostly good, aside from some really unfunny lines that serve to make him the dumb meathead who doesn't even know what the word fun means. It is very refreshing to see him not only in his role as an antagonist from Sonic 3, but also as a more serious warrior archetype instead of a total moron, most of the time. I also appreciate the attempt at making Knuckles a reflection of Sonic, since Knuckles has always been a lonely, naive orphan in the games, and Sonic in the movie universe is a sad loser who has no friends. Their little bonding moment on the beach after they rescue each other from the Master Emerald Chamber was nice. I was glad to see him actually climbing walls with his Knuckles, that's the whole point of them, running fast alongside Sonic and Tails, but it was a shock to see him jump off the plane during the climax and he didn't start gliding, it just seemed so obvious. Idris Elba's performance is good, certainly a deeper, somewhat stoic take on the character that I can appreciate.
I've been training for this my entire life!
There are some lines where he quite suddenly has a much thicker accent on certain words, like when he says, "You were my friend" to Eggman in the Master Emerald Chamber, and it just feels a bit inconsistent with the rest of his dialogue. The end of the film sees Team Sonic become the equivalent of Alvin and the Chipmunks, all living together with Sonic's cop dad, who he quite literally calls Dad at the end of the movie. Did Tails and Knuckles just not care about going back home? This is such a stupid family film cliche and feels like a disrespectful abandonment of Sonic's love for exploring the world and never staying still that we know from the games. The overall character animation varies quite a bit in quality, with only a few moments of satisfying cartoon appeal. There's a cute shot of Sonic running through the Emerald Maze where he has a snappy reaction to being chased by a boulder. And there's a great usage of duplicated hands as smear frames for Knuckles during their fight soon after. Unfortunately, these moments kind of stick out against the otherwise quite bland character animation and the unappealing design of Sonic himself. I think Tails and Knuckles are almost perfect. Tails' forehead is too big and Knuckles is a bit too hairy, and while Sonic may have ditched his eyeliner from the last film, he still doesn't look that good in most shots. His eyes are still big rounded squares and rest a bit too low on his head, creating an awkward looking expression when his eyebrows are raised up. When his brows come down, he certainly looks a lot better, so long as he doesn't have an ugly middle mouth at the same time. Don't worry about that, because Sonic was already redesigned once, so that means I'm not allowed to criticize the way he looks now, because after all, the designs just don't even matter. While we're at it, writing doesn't matter either. Same with editing, lighting, acting, sound design, musical score, anything. I'll just blindly love it anyway, because Sonic's in it. Jim Carrey is serviceable, but his portrayal of Eggman is mostly, haha, I am so quirky and random, throwing out obnoxious references to Uber, smartphone maps, and Limp Bizkit. Referencing something is not a joke, it's not funny, and I'm sick to death of it. At least he had one or two good jokes in the first movie.
I was breastfed, actually. Nice.
He flosses too. Hilarious. It was nice seeing some more game-accurate elements, like the Echidna tribes, the Emeralds, and Supersonic, and their changes from the game canon are ultimately inoffensive, and they work to serve the film. I'm not here to just see surface-level Easter eggs though, because Sonic doing the adventure pose does nothing to address the bad writing, pacing, and action scenes. I appreciate the stylized flashback sequence depicting the owls fighting the echidnas, and I wish the entire film had a more unique and expressive art style similar to that, instead of just being Sonic and the Chipmunks. The structure of Sonic 2 is an absolute mess. It simultaneously feels like sensory overload, with constant noise and CG animation, while also feeling empty and boring. The opening with Eggman on the Mushroom Planet is alright, very clearly inspired by Back to the Future. The inclusion of extremely humanoid lizard people who were unused in the first film was very odd, as they're never mentioned again, and the far more stylized character Knuckles jumps through the portal straight afterwards, further clashing with the film's art direction. Sonic and Tails have an insufferable detour to a tavern in Siberia and get their map to the Emerald taken away from them. At this point, the movie just pretends we don't know that Sonic is capable of effectively stopping time, so instead he has to engage in a dance battle to the epic song Uptown Funk. It's a worthless scene that bloats the film, only existing for Sonic and Tails to quickly become best friends. But could we have had literally any other type of scene to illustrate that instead of a dance battle in a tavern? I'm not here to make reductive complaints about surface level details like cinema sins, but it's a problem when these obvious inconsistencies take me out of the film. It feels like Sonic is only able to run fast for a gag, or when it's a moment that the film decides is worthy of some action spectacle. Even in these moments, I often felt Sonic's running speed looked really slow, particularly at the end of the film against the Death Egg robot. I couldn't help but make another CinemaSins ding sound effect when they entered the Emerald Maze, and the movie shows us that it doesn't have a ceiling. Are we supposed to forget that Knuckles can climb and Sonic can run up walls? Please don't use the defense that I'm supposed to turn my brain off. If I have to do that, you're basically acknowledging that the movie is shit. The wedding in the second act is by far the worst part of the entire film. We start by dealing with the contrived conflict of Tom the cop switching out one of the wedding rings with the warp ring, asking to see their wedding rings at the altar instead of just saying, "Hey look, I've got the real ring right here, look at this, now look at the one you're holding, see, it's the wrong one." When Sonic and Tails arrive, it's revealed that the whole thing was a setup from Gunn to capture Sonic, removing him from the film for about the next 15 minutes. What follows is a tedious, mind-numbing stretch of the human characters arguing, using Tails' gadgets to take out gun agents, and the sister-wife character finding out that her fake husband really did love her the whole time. Wow, I mean, that's just so lovely. But who in their right mind gave a single shit during this entire scene? Awful, unfunny dialogue where the joke is just, haha, they are women and they are being loud. And further out-of-place government crap with characters drawing weapons at each other. Thankfully, there aren't any mentions of drug dealers, violent gang shootouts, or terrorism in this one. I wish I could say that the story hits its stride when Sonic returns and heads for the Emerald Shrine, but I wasn't engaged because there's no tension, no emotional stakes, no reason for me to empathize with what's happening on screen. The fight between Sonic and Knuckles is over very quickly, and chaos-powered Eggman is absurdly cringe. The climax does not make up for anything early in the film, ending just like the original in the setting of Green Hills, Montana. Sonic is about to be crushed to death with his human family until the power of love, and the 7 Chaos Emeralds, turns him into Super Sonic, into what is possibly the most underwhelming supersonic finale I have ever seen. The setting is generic, the destruction of Eggman's robot isn't satisfying because he just stands there, and there's zero sense of speed or energy to the scene at all. Compare this to, again, the opening to Sonic Unleashed, with its dynamic, fast-moving camera angles, and it's clear to see which one had a better sense of making Super Sonic exciting to watch. Also, Sonic just lets Eggman fall to his death on purpose? I thought he was gonna fly in and catch him after he tips the Death Egg robot over. The gun commander later says no one could have survived that. So I guess Sonic is just okay with fucking killing people now. He also gets rid of the Chaos Emeralds straight away, but then Knuckles somehow makes the Master Emerald come back. But Sonic just threw away all the emeralds. Is this an attempt to separate the Master Emerald from the individual Chaos Emeralds, more like the games? Because going with what the film established earlier, this is very confusing. The animated sprite art in the credits this time is genuinely wonderful, but it really bothers me to see classic Sonic so perfectly replicated, but with blue arms. It just looks wrong. They got rid of the split eyes, the fur, and the electricity stuff, but they kept the blue arms. Now, of course, as soon as Gun was introduced in the second act of the film, I couldn't help but think that Shadow was guaranteed for the post-credits reveal, if that wasn't already the most obvious choice possible to a big studio. I burst out laughing when he was revealed in his tube with his ugly Muppet mouth because he looks awful in the movie aesthetic. I can't wait for Tom the Cop to be the character that convinces Shadow to change sides in the next movie, just like when Chris Thorndike did it in Sonic X instead of Amy. Metal Sonic was the far better choice for the next film's antagonist, since Shadow occupies a very similar role to Knuckles in this film. He's a rival for Sonic to fight, perhaps offering a dark reflection of our protagonist in some way, who learns to do the right thing and join the heroes for the finale. Is the end of movie 3 just going to be Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Shadow all living in the cop's house? If we get a movie design for Rouge the Bat in the next one, may God have mercy on our souls. She'll either be far more humanoid, and therefore sexualized than she already was, or become a boring girl boss character in a jumpsuit. While I don't care much for the empty references to the video games, I would have gladly taken some game music, especially during the final battle, because the generic orchestral score is vastly inferior. Even to a fresh audience, unfamiliar with Sonic and its music, memorable themes from the New Jack Swing of the classics, the butt rock of the adventure era, or the much more energetic orchestra from games like Unleashed and Colors would have suited moments in this film so much better. I can't even be bothered to suggest where I want the third film to go. I have very little faith in them saving the series at this point, with the third film and a Knuckles TV series already greenlit before the second one even came out. I would much prefer a fully animated movie series that replaced this one, or that Hollywood in general stopped relying on adapting existing properties and just made something new. Sonic Movie 2 is just another sad victim of the Marvelification of popular cinema, another franchise entry filled with obnoxious quips, dull action, and post-credits advertisements for the next entry. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles are all mostly likable. I appreciate the slow shift into a more game-focused direction. But it doesn't matter when the film itself is still bad. This sequel inherits all the baggage from the original, which had the monumental task of making Sonic work in live action. How do you make that work? The answer is you don't, because it can't work. I have no desire to rewatch this outside of simply forming a more in-depth opinion about why I don't like it. The Sonic the Hedgehog video games are highly stylized with lovable cartoon characters and a blend of natural, surreal, and urban locations. The Sonic movie series barely represents any of this, and the only way it will ever capture the same appeal from the games will be with a more faithful, animated format instead. You don't need to have the exact same locations from the games or the exact same music, but at least try to capture that same appeal with an aesthetic that is clearly informed by the source material. Give me something like Spider-Verse or Crash Bandicoot 4 with bold color choices, delicious smear frames, and something grander than a small town in Montana. I wish I could have enjoyed this film in the same way that many others have, even my own friends, but I just can't. Even when viewed just as crowd-pleasing family films that are just supposed to be fun, these two Sonic films, while not the worst things I've ever seen, are nowhere near my standards of quality, and I don't think that's unreasonable. For what it's worth, I don't like the Sonic OVA either, but it at least looks and feels more like Sonic. Surely even the most adamant Sonic movie fans can agree with me that these films are not without their flaws, or major departures from the source material. It's absolutely fine if you enjoyed it, but are boring live-action humans, generic rural locations, and lifeless wedding scenes really your ideal components needed to make the perfect Sonic the Hedgehog film? I love Sonic, but I'm of the opinion that if something is going to be extremely mediocre or worse, it shouldn't have been made at all. One last thing. Before the film had been released, Sonic fans were already taking issue with mediocre review scores and points of legitimate criticism, defending a film that they had not watched yet. It was pathetic.
And I'm telling you, it's gonna be real hard not to crush your screen with your bare hands after seeing a couple of these absolutely brainless critics' takes.
So yes, Rotten Tomatoes, they don't know what they want to score this film because they know it's too good. Now, I already know that this film's going to be brilliant. I know for a fact that this is definitely something that's going to be brilliant. And I think that once again, Rotten Tomatoes has done the wrong deed with a lot of things that they constantly do, which is always putting certain things down that they choose they want to say isn't good.
Misinformation was rampant, with a false claim that critics said it focuses way too much on Sonic and less on the human characters. No one ever said that. And bad faith assumptions about the critics who weren't in love with the film.
Critics and the media hates it when studios try to please the fans. And because of that, the media went out of their way to smear Sonic the Hedgehog. They tried their best to destroy that movie. Didn't work. The movie had a huge box office. And what have we learned from mainstream entertainment media? They don't like you and they don't want you to be happy. Like them, because they're all miserable.
Rotten Tomatoes is not an evil hive mind. It's a review aggregate website that compiles opinions from a variety of sources. Don't worry, I'm sure the audience score will continue to skyrocket as Sonic fans go on their heroic crusade to defend a mediocre film from those biased, hateful critics. After all, the Sonic movies are experimental, avant-garde cinema that doesn't fit to the conventions of Hollywood that all reviewers are expecting, of course. Let's call someone's review an abysmal mess written by a human sack of filth because they compared Sonic to Alvin and the Chipmunks. That's mature. Sure, if I didn't use Twitter, I wouldn't have seen this stuff and it wouldn't have bothered me, but that does nothing to solve the actual problem of this awful toxic positivity that continues to spread through online fan bases, especially with Sonic. The only genuinely bad faith piece of criticism that I saw was a dismissive comment about Colleen voicing Tails, from reviewer John Nugent of Empire Online. It seemed to imply that using Tails' voice from the games was juvenile, which is obviously a reductive argument about video games being solely for children, and that celebrities have to voice every fucking animated character. The review has since been edited to remove this comment. There's this weird argument I see a lot from Sonic fans, something along the lines of, we don't want deep, dramatic, emotional writing. We just want to have fun.
I'm expecting it to be fun and give me more video game Easter eggs.
I really don't think these movies deserve harsh criticism in their reviews because they're meant for children and they're meant for families. And it's not like you're trying to set like a high dramatic bar with a Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
The issue with this statement is that it's so poorly defined. What exactly is your idea of deep, dramatic dialogue?
I'm not expecting some ultra-dark Sonic beheading Robotnik scene.
You do know that good writing can exist within the expectations of its genre, right? No one has been asking for the Sonic movies to be slow-paced, black and white dramas with Sonic falling into a midlife crisis. We just want good writing for an action-adventure film that can appeal to everyone. Do these people not want emotional conflict, strong narrative themes, or some nice setup and payoff in their Sonic movies? Because this argument is never elaborated on with clear definitions, their defense against criticism boils down to, the movie isn't supposed to be good. I think you all need to remember that a critic's purpose is to define their taste, so you can come to your own conclusions about whether or not you might enjoy something. Why did they think something was good or bad? Did they say Sonic was bad because they thought it had annoying dialogue, uneven pacing, and a generic finale akin to every other superhero action movie from the past 15 years? Or did they say it was bad because Sonic is a video game character and they just hate video games? These are two entirely different forms of critique, and it's up to you to identify that and find out which opinion is more valuable to you. If you want the Sonic movies to succeed and do well with a larger audience, then why are we using this toxic mindset that it's all just for the fans and that the critics don't matter? I think the fresh perspective of someone unfamiliar with the series is just as important as that of a longtime fan. They might identify issues that the rest of us never questioned. I cannot take anything away from your enjoyment of these Sonic films, and in the end, the significance of my opinion is in your hands. I'm just another guy on the internet sharing his thoughts, so if you disagree, just move on with your life. But I'd also urge you to embrace new things. Listen to those around you who suggest something different, something fresh. I don't just mean a new Marvel character, I mean something actually new. Give it a try. What's really the worst that could happen? Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm living in my own place now, so I have the freedom to make videos whenever I want. But I'm still working full-time, so I hope you appreciate it when I choose to go out of my way to make a video like this in my spare time. If you're the kind of person to get upset that I was being too negative in this video, why not watch one of my more positive videos? For some reason, they tend to have way less views than my more negative or more controversial videos, but you know, I guess that's my fault, isn't it? Clearly, I just hate everything. If you've made it this far, you'd probably enjoy listening to our very lengthy Sonic Movie 2 discussion, which will be linked in the description. Go check out the podcast I did with my friend Ted about the new Sonic game that is definitely not an April Fool's joke about how Sonic Frontiers is sharing a very similar pre-release trend to the fan-favorite Sonic Forces. Go to my second channel if you want the occasional side video, often me doing something dumb in Sea of Thieves. I'll be back again when I feel like making another video. If you want to keep up with me more, follow me on Twitter and join the Discord. Thank you everyone for sticking with me, and see you next time.